So welcome to our Exploring Careers Virtually workshop. This is a third of 3 workshops that we have done in our virtual job search workshop series. And today we're going to be, Ann Alcorn is the career advisor at Southlake. I'm the career advisor at our Leesburg campus. And so today we will both be talking to you guys about different ways that you can explore career options, help decide on a major and degree path, and look at different industries within your career field, all virtually while we are working remotely. So we'll go ahead and, okay.
Hello, so this is Ann. I'm the career advisor in Southlake, as Carice had mentioned. And we just wanted to start today with a word from our professional association that is comprised of career advisors and employers. And they were talking about during this time when everybody's working remotely, maybe we're not out at the college or out at our places of work as much. They said it is critical for students to identify ways to distinguish themselves from their competition, since many individuals will not have the ability to work in person. Students who further their skills and competencies will stand out from other applicants who did not take the initiative during this time. So I think that speaks volumes about don't just sit on your couch watching Netflix all day while you're home once school is out and you're done with your studies. Now is really a great time to strengthen your resume. And there are lots of ways you can do that. You can develop a new skill that you might be able to add up in your summary of skills section. You can increase your education even outside of your typical academic education by doing an online training, watching a professional development webinar, finding different resources online that you can join and get some training remotely. If you're lacking in experience and you were really hoping to have that first job this summer and now maybe that's not going to pan out, you can still think of some projects that you might be able to create on your own depending upon what your major is or what line of work you're interested in. There are lots of opportunities. If you're interested in marketing, you could develop a marketing campaign for a fictional, company, or you could actually find someone who needs some assistance, maybe a nonprofit or something like that. Or you could create some content for a blog or a website. Anything you can do to start getting some of that experience on your own. And then getting involved, period. Even if you can't find a job, there's still volunteer opportunities. Many of the in-person ones are no longer available. But if you think about any nonprofit in the area, a lot of them are looking for funding now. And I was on a call the other day where they were talking about they needed help with grant writing. They need help really beefing up their social media so they can keep their followers connected during this time when maybe they can't connect in person. So there are definitely still ways that you can volunteer. And Carice and I are available to help you with any of those topics I just mentioned. When we're talking about choosing a career path, it can be daunting. Some people, I think, wake up one morning when they're in first grade and they discover, this is what I want to be. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a doctor. And sometimes they stick with that their whole career, but more likely than not, you don't stick with that. For whatever reason, you hop around or you have no idea what you want to do. And that is all perfectly normal. Most people don't figure out what they want to do super early in life. And it's really great to be exploring, getting to know yourself and getting to know these other industries and the different jobs and majors that are out there so that you're making the right choice. So the first thing you really have to do is learn how to understand yourself, what makes you tick. And I know that sounds funny, but to really think about what are some characteristics of my personality that might help me or hinder me in a future career? What are some of my interests? Do I need to incorporate my interests into my career? What are you good at? That's always really helpful, right? It would be better to be in a career where your skills naturally align with it. And then thinking about your values and what's important to you, because there will be some careers or some companies even that might not totally align with your values. And it's a good idea to kind of explore those before you dive in and you land in the wrong career. So these are all things that you want to be thinking about. We have a really great assessment that you can take that really works well to kind of start exploring those different pieces. It's called the My Plan, and we have a little poll I think Carice has for you to find out if any of you, have you ever taken the My Plan career assessment? Sometimes you may have had to take it during an SLS class if you've ever taken that, or you may have just come in for an appointment, or maybe you've never taken it. Are you able to see the poll? Aria, are you able to see it? All right. I'm not sure if people aren't being able to see it or not, but I'm not really getting any results. So I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. And we can keep going along. When we talk about the My Plan assessment, you can come in here. It's comprised of 4 small assessments. They each take maybe 15 minutes to get to complete, and they are each looking at different aspects of what comprises who you are. We had talked about perhaps doing learning about your personality, your interests, your skills, and your values. So each of those assessments are within there. The personality and the interest one is really are the 2 that I find the most valuable, because they do get into those pieces of you that are kind of at your core. And it really does help to discover some things about yourself. So it's fun to take the assessment as a whole, but if you go over to where it says reports on the left, if you were, yeah, there you go, down on the left where it says my reports, you'll get a little report for each of the assessments that you take. We won't spend too much time on it, but if you were to click on the personality one, you can see it'll tell you what your personality type is. They typically report the personality type as a 4-letter type, and it will go in and explain what each of those different pieces of the personality means, some of the strengths and weaknesses of each of those, and how consistently you answered those questions. This is something that Carice and I go through on our career exploration appointments a lot. And then the best part is you click on this career match link at the top, and it will show you the careers that people with your personality are typically successful and happy in. Across the top, you can see where it says level 5, and that is the education level. So what level of education are you expecting to get? If you choose a different level, so if you know that you're going to get a bachelor's degree for sure, or you're going to get your associates and you think that's probably where you're going to stop, you can choose the 2-year and see what these different careers are that are available to you. I encourage students to look at all levels, from level 2 all the way through, because you don't know what you're going to want to do. You might think there's no way I'm going beyond a bachelor's degree, but you might find something that really piques your interest and you do want to continue on. Or you may find that that job might, have a bachelor or a master's degree preferred, but it's not required to start your career. So I really think it opens more doors if you look at all of them. or even go through them, you know, as a 2-year and then a 4-year and then the graduate level, and see which ones kind of speak to you. What's great about it also is that each of those job titles are clickable links. So you can click through and learn more about the career just by staying on this page. It'll give you a little bit more information about the job, the other job requirements, the average US national average salaries. And then I really love that they give you some similar career options. So if you're reading through and you think, I don't really know about this, the related careers will give you more ideas on things that you might consider for the future. But you can do this for all of the assessments, and they're not always going to line up because your personality and your interests may not always align career-wise, but it's a great way to really start this exploration process. Pick a few that really seem interesting to you and start exploring. We have another poll that we can see if it'll work. Or we can just ask and you could answer in the chat. But what we're trying to find out, oh, there we go, is, you know, have you ever met with a career advisor for an exploration appointment? If you haven't and you're answering, no, I don't need to, I validate your response there, but I really think that even if you're very set on your career, it's still valuable to meet with a career advisor just to see if you're going down the right path to get to that career. Sometimes students or anyone believe that they know exactly what needs to be done to be successful and land in the career they want. And but there's a lot that goes into it typically, and it's always changing. So what might have been true, you know, 5 or 10 years ago isn't necessarily true today as far as what it's going to take to get to that final destination career. So I really encourage you to schedule, and you can do that through Starfish or by emailing one of us, whatever works for you the best.
So we talked about my plan being a starting point to start researching more about your particular career field that may be a fit for either your personality or your interests. But also there are other research tools that we use during our career exploration appointment that you can absolutely do virtually. So the one site that we really like to work with students on is What I Can Do with This Major. And there are different universities that purchase a package so that they are able to offer this. So this is not something that Lake-Sumter has any ownership of. But if you go to their site, essentially it will give you a list of very broad areas or majors. So anything from accounting to women's studies to hospitality to management. So a lot of different areas. And so I know we looked up advertising on the My Plan. So we can look at advertising on this site, and you can see that under the larger, broader area, there are going to be smaller sub areas. So it always starts with what is the most common perception of that particular area, so account management. But then it also comes up with other areas underneath that that maybe you did know or you didn't know. Maybe there's certain aspects or particular aspect that you like, but others you may not like. Or maybe there is an area that you didn't realize was part of advertising, but it is. So now this is something that you can look at further. And if we were to stop and look at a specific sub area, you'll notice that it breaks down a lot of different ways that you can work within that area. So anything from special events to fundraising to even health communication all falls under advertising and then the sub area of public relations. It will also give you information about typical employers or types of companies and industries that hire for this type of position. And then it'll also give you some strategies to think about if you're looking to go into this role. So this is one of the websites that we really like to use. We also like to use the Occupational Outlook Handbook. This is a collection of information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This information is helpful because they collect data from all across the United States regarding different occupations. So if we were to put in advertising, such as we researched in the 2 previous times, we'll notice that there will be a list of occupations. Again, it'll start with the very specific one that you search, but then it'll also list other related occupations. So graphic designers, sales agents, art directors, all the way down. So you can, of course, research the specific occupation or career field that you're interested in, but then it also may give you some other ideas that you would explore and maybe learn more about. So if you were to click on the link, what will show up is really a snapshot of this occupation. Anything from the average salary to the typical level of education to the job outlook, which really tells you, is this an up and growing field and more positions are being created? Is it pretty much staying the same, or is it on the decline? You can click on each of the blue links below, or they correspond to the tabs at the top. But I really like to show students kind of how they become this position, because many times students want to know, well, what degree do I need to do in order to go into this career field? So it really breaks down the type of education and knowledge that goes into the position, and it starts to give you an idea of possible majors that you can choose that would be great to go into this field. Also want to look at ONET Online. This website I really enjoy because I use it more than just helping students with career exploration, but I also use this to help build your resume and really have an understanding of a particular position when you're practicing and preparing for an interview as well. So I'm going to put in advertising, and you will notice there is a very similar list as the previous website. But when you click on the link, it'll give you a brief description of what that position entails, but it really will give you other job titles. So when you're trying to think of people that you may know within your circle of friends, or maybe your parents' friends or friends of the family, maybe you didn't realize they were in advertising because they never said that that was their job title. Maybe they just said they were communications manager or director, and you didn't realize that was the same thing. So it'll help you kind of get an idea that there are lots of different job titles, but it all means the same. It'll also break down the tasks. So unlike the other sites where it gives you a general idea of what that occupation or career field does, this will really give you an idea of the day-to-day tasks that that person would do. So as you read through each of the tasks, it's important to visualize whether you can see yourself doing that type of work. It would also give you technology knowledge. So again, if you're interested in going into this career field, notice that communications and media is important. So communication might be a major that you can choose. It's also a lot of sales and marketing. So again, if you are interested in majoring in marketing instead of advertising, that's another important knowledge to have, as well as personal and customer service. So if you click the plus sign, it'll open up a lot more. It'll also tell you skills, abilities, and work activities. Again, as you're reading through this, you want to see if that fits with what you can see yourself doing. And we talked about the My Plan. If you actually look at your interest assessment, this will actually match your interest assessment. Well, you can actually see if it matches your interest assessment, but it uses the same interest code. So if you notice on your interest assessment in my plan that you had enterprising, artistic, or conventional as one of your top 2 interest areas, then you know that this is a really great fit. It also talks about work styles and values. That also matches up to the values assessment on the My Plan. So all of this kind of ties in together. What I really like about this site is if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there are also additional sources of information, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So research is really key to learning more about your career field. You want to become familiar with the industry that you're interested in, but also be familiar with all the different types of industries that your career field can work into. Some of you may be wondering, well, what exactly is industry? How is that different than a major or career field? Well, within a career field, let's just say healthcare, there are different ways that you can work within healthcare when it comes to industries. So an industry may be actually healthcare, so a hospital, a clinic, but then there also may be manufacturing, there also may be the government. And so depending on if you were a physician, that's a career field, medical, but the industry might be government. So that means you may work at a military hospital or the VA hospital, or maybe you are a consultant, or an industry could also be education. Maybe, yes, you're a physician, but you teach at a medical school at a university. So hopefully that helps clears it up. So when people say they want to be an accountant, or they want to go into advertising, or they want to be in business, like management, you have to think about, well, what are the different types of industries and what fits your interests? You also want to learn a little bit about your major and what majors really fit with the career field that you're interested in, and what types of jobs are found within that career field, and what kind of jobs you can do with that major. You also want to research the companies. So if you know that you're interested in working as a, let's say, event planning, public relations, advertising, marketing, in that area, and you have your dream company is to work for Disney or to work for a huge stadium, then those are companies that you can look up and really see how they hire, what positions they hire for, what someone in your career field, what would they do at that particular company. And then you also want to be aware of what compensation is common for the positions in your career field. In particular, what is sort of a typical entry point? So when you first start out from college, and then what are some of the ways that you move up in the career field? As you start to apply and interview for positions, this really becomes important because you want to have an idea of what is the going salary. Keep in mind, salary is going to vary by not just the industry and the career field, but it's also going to vary according to the geographic area that you live in. So someone who lives in New York City, they may get a different salary than someone who lives in Tennessee. So, and then it could differ than someone who lives here in Central Florida. So it really kind of just depends on the area. So I'm going to do another quick poll to see who all has decided on their career. So first, have you decided on a career path, yes or no? And then if you can also answer what area you're interested in. So notice I put healthcare, business, education, social sciences. Engineering is a large career field. I'll give it a couple more minutes, or seconds, sorry, not minutes. We're not here all afternoon. All right. So we do have some that have decided on their career field, and it seems like of course, computers and technology is the top one. So that's really important to start to think about, well, then how do I research, let's say, computer information technology? How do I learn more about that? Where do I go to get the information? So Anne, I'm
Sure.
not sure why I have like the little special effects, but there you go.
There you go. Yes, so there's a lot of ways to research virtually for these different careers. Researching majors, as Chris showed you earlier, the what can I do with this major is a really good resource to see what kind of jobs you can get with the majors. But the universities all have academic web pages. You can go to the department for the major or program that you're interested in and see everything from what coursework you need to complete to internships that might be available in those majors, the faculty and what they are researching, clubs that might be affiliated with those majors, and it really starts to give you a better kind of picture of what that major is going to look like, what the people in that major is going to look like, and what the interest areas are going to be. You can also go to your professional network and ask the people that you know who are in the career you're interested in, what was your major? Was that helpful? Do you use anything from your major? Could you have done something differently? Even using LinkedIn to search for different majors is a really great way to see what kind of careers those people are currently in. You might be surprised that they're not always in the career that seems like it's a direct line from that major to that career, but it is a great way to find that out. And then when you need information for industries and career fields, a lot of industries have their own pages where it will talk more about that particular industry. You might think of energy and only think of oil companies or only think of electricity companies, but there's a plethora of opportunities out there. Learning about professional associations and joining them or just visiting their websites is really a great place to do some research. You'll start to see what kind of professional development they do and learn more about the different opportunities within those industries.
I'll
For
give
example,
an example for the society. Sorry, I lost my mouse there for a second.
So yeah, if you were interested in human resources, you can go to the Society for Human Resource Management. It's one of the largest professional organization for human resource employees. And it shows all of these different topics. You can see over on the left, the different HR topics. Not only does it let you know kind of the interest areas, but you start to see how broad the human resource field is. There's everyone from, the people out there doing the recruiting to people who are doing training and development, the people that are doing the technology behind the scenes, people focusing on diversity and inclusion. It really does let you start to explore all these different aspects of that particular career field and let you learn more about it. And also, whereas a professional organization might cost a professional $200 or $300 to be a member, frequently they have student memberships available where it might be $25 or $30 to join. And this gives you even more information and more insight into the career and ways to connect with professionals in a virtual manner.
They also can have different events too, and so when we look at, they have conferences as well as state conferences, even webcasts. So when you talk about attending these types of events, even as a student, not only will you be able to expand your professional network, but they also a lot of times may have job fairs. So you never know who you can connect to.
Okay, and then also there's blogs and articles. There's literally unlimited resources if you just go out to the internet, where they might focus on a specific career fields and give some expertise. This is a great example of if you were interested in marketing, but you wonder, you know, I know that I want to be the chief marketing officer of Google when I am at the pinnacle of my career. Well, what's that path look like? What are entry-level jobs titles that I should be looking for, and what kind of pay can I expect? So this goes through and shows you entry-level jobs with a variety of careers for job titles. Then it shows what you might find once you're a little more experienced, and continues to go on during the process, showing you what those different careers will look like, and kind of gives you an idea of what am I looking at for my career path and how many years before I'm making the money that I think I want and have achieved that chief marketing officer that I had mentioned. Researching companies virtually is also great. You can go directly to their websites and learn a ton about them. We have a couple of examples here of companies that are kind of everyday, very recognizable names that you might have in your brain a preconceived notion of what kind of jobs they have. If you think of Publix, you're thinking of cashiers and stock people, and maybe as the highest thing that you might be able to achieve there being a store manager. But if you look on the careers page at the top, they give you some opportunities over on the left where it talks about the different areas that you can work. There's corporate jobs, there's IT, there's distribution, manufacturing. There's a lot of opportunities that you may never have thought about that are outside the store, that are, you know, their corporate offices are actually in Lakeland, which is not far from where we are. And there's lots of opportunities there. And by looking at this website, it gives you the list of jobs that are available even within the IT field. You can click through and learn about them and then know, how do I go ahead and apply for that job? Grace, I keep having a noise at this end, so I'm going to have you take it from here.
So there are also ways to research companies on LinkedIn. And so you can also search for their specific company pages on LinkedIn and get a lot of useful information, even names of contacts. We did Anne actually did one on building your LinkedIn toolbox. So if you missed that workshop last Wednesday, make sure to check out our YouTube page. And then where do you go to get information on salary? We already saw on ONET Online. I didn't specifically mention it, but they also give salary ranges. You saw that on the Occupational Outlook. But then you can also use not just your network, but also you can look at certain companies that will allow you to search for information such as Glassdoor or salary.com. So I'm not sure why that doesn't want to open up. Oh, there it goes. So if you were looking for public relations specialists, you would want to check on Glassdoor, maybe put in specifically years of experience. So you can be as specific as you want to, or as general. Notice I just put the Orlando area. So this one kind of gives you an average base salary, but it also kind of gives you the range. And then you can look for related titles. You could put in years of experience, or if you have a company in mind, maybe you're interviewing with someone, you can kind of put their company size to see what would a comparable salary be at another company that size. So there are ways to kind of research salary information as well. So the best way that right now you can learn information outside of doing a bunch of reading, because all of these websites will, you know, you have to kind of read through and look through the information, is an informational interview. So meeting with the professional in your career field to talk about their career path is one of the best ways to sort of explore careers. And so you can learn about their experience and kind of what is their day-to-day job task. So remember when we looked at the job tasks on the ONET online website, well, out of those, what do they actually spend majority of their time doing? You can get advice on recommended degree paths. So when you're trying to decide between a couple of different majors, or maybe you just have no idea which major, you can ask them, what did you major in? What do you recommend the major in? Are there certain classes? Also, experiential learning opportunities. Did they do an internship? Is there a summer program? Or are there other ways that you can start to gain experience while you are a student? You also want to ask them about their career path because maybe you didn't know that there was a certain career field or an industry existed, but because they've taken a different direction than the typical career path, you might learn some new information. You can also get recommendations of other people for you to talk to. That will help you to continue networking and have other additional contacts to do informational interviews. The key is to remember this is not a job interview in the sense that you're not asking for a position or for them to hire you. You do want to focus on getting to know them and not spend a lot of time talking about yourself. They may ask you some questions that's just natural in conversation, but make sure that you are focused on trying to learn more about them and their career path. So even though it's not a job interview, you still want to take this seriously because you want to make a great first impression. So setting up the interview, you first have to identify your contacts. We encourage you to think first about who you may know. So again, think about your parents or family members, where they work, who might be in their network. Think about your friends, maybe their parents work somewhere. Or also think about professors or teachers that you've had in high school, really anyone that's in your network. Also look on LinkedIn and see, are there different people that you can connect there? And then our office also can assist you. Each semester, we try to take students on an exploration trip. So a lot of students have been able to connect with employers that way, but we still have those contact information. So even if you weren't able to join us, we would still have those contacts to share. We also bring employers in for either a networking or an employer panel. Again, that's another way that you can expand your network, but also we have that information as well. So once you kind of have identified your career field, your area and industry, and who are some people you can reach out to, of course, you have to make the introduction. Right now, it has to be an email or a phone call, and you want to already have prepared sort of how you would introduce yourself. Remember, you don't want to take up too much of their time, but you also want to make sure that you introduce who you are and why you're reaching out to them. So a sample way to introduce yourself is to say, Mrs. Smith, my name is Laker Lakehawk. I'm a college student interested in computer information technology field. I could use advice from someone such as yourself who works at AT&T. Do you have time in the next couple of weeks to meet virtually for about 20 minutes? I would really like to learn more about your company and this career field. And it's as simple as that. If you need help with setting up a Zoom meeting or any of the virtual video conferencing technology, please reach out to CDS because we'd be more than happy to help with that. But notice that we're working remotely, so a lot of the employees at other companies may also be working remotely and have more time than typical to be able to sit down and talk to you over Zoom. So you want to be prepared. You want to do your research, not just of the company, but if you can, of the person that you want to do the informational interview. You want to make sure that, what is their job title? What is, the department they work in? Maybe a little bit about the structure so that you're not mistaken their role or kind of what they do. And even though you are at home and other people may be working from home, you still want to not just come in a t-shirt that you maybe just have worn all day that's really comfortable. You still want to look nice because if you're doing a Zoom interview, they're going to see you, hopefully. You don't want to necessarily not have your video chat on. If you're doing it over the phone, clearly that's not the most ideal, because when you have a conversation with someone, it's really great if you can connect with their face. You also want to come prepared with at least 5 questions. Remember to focus on your goal, learning about their career field, their career path, or things of that nature. Maybe you want to learn more about working for that specific company. And then you definitely want to follow up with a thank you note or email. That's something that can be mailed to them or sent out through email. So notice all of that can be done virtually. Right now, I know a lot of summer opportunities are not available to do in-person interviews and internships and interviews and shadowing, but doing an informational interview through Zoom, you're able to really get a lot of great information, practice for interviewing, and getting comfortable expanding your network. During your actual information interview, here are some sample questions. What was your major? Is there an entry-level salary range? What are the most interesting aspects of your job? So forth. Try to think of questions that would be unique to that person. So nothing that you can necessarily find on the internet or on the company webpage or on LinkedIn. Try to think of things that maybe you wouldn't ask during a job interview, but it might be perfectly fine to ask them. So maybe, what were some of the jobs you had previous to this position? Or what was your first job in this career field? Or how do you prepare yourself? Or what are ways you stay on top of trends? You can get a lot of great information and recommendation of all things you can do virtually, especially during this time when companies are really trying to work on their work balance, but also they're trying to think ahead to when the pandemic is over and they need to have hiring needs. So there are some examples of informational interviews that Career Services has already done. So for example, if you were interested in computer information technology, like one student mentioned, if you look on our YouTube page, you will see that we actually did an informational interview with our CIT program manager and instructor, Chris Sargent. I'm not going to play the whole video, but I just want you to get a feel. So hopefully you have an idea that I'm just sitting asking him questions, and most employers or professionals, they enjoy talking about their field because they've been working in that field. And because you're a college student, they know that you're interested in you're the next generation coming in. You'll find that surprisingly people make time to talk to you. Now, some may not have the time right now because they're really extremely busy, but don't give up hope. You know, if you generate a list of different people, hopefully there'll be at least 2 or 3 others on your list that would have the time to speak with you. So again, you can always check out our YouTube channel because we have public health, criminal justice. We also have, if you're interested in being a writer or an English major. So we've talked to we've already done some of these informational interviews. The great thing about these specific informational interviews, they are all professors at the college. So because they're faculty, you would have access to do your own informational. Maybe there were questions I didn't ask, but because they're faculty, you can definitely reach them, email, call them, and be able to actually meet with them in person once we are able to come back to campus. So hopefully that will give you some ideas on how you can structure your informational interview. So to kind of start to wrap up all of the different ways that you can explore your careers virtually, we really want to take this opportunity to encourage you to maximize your summer. I know right now it's a really unprecedented time, but again, like we mentioned at the very beginning, you want to be working towards your career. And if you're taking a summer class or taking the summer off, maybe you're trying to figure out what are your next steps, there are a lot of great things that you can do to really explore your career and work on your resume. So we talked about a few of these things at the beginning, but just to kind of refresh, you can pick up a new skill set through online courses or tutorial. Especially there's a lot of video and webinar content. You can possibly learn another language. Right now, Rosetta Stone is offering a free 3-month student account. So you can pick up and learn Spanish, or maybe you practice Spanish or whatever other language you'd like to learn. Also creating a website or online portfolio. Our Lake-Sumter Career Connect has a portfolio tool. So if you need assistance with that, you can definitely meet with Ann or myself, and we'd be more than happy to help you. You can also ask your professors if there's any, if you have a favorite professor or maybe someone that teaches in the field you're interested in going into, maybe they have research that they are starting to do more work on because they have more time. And that you can do virtually because maybe they need you to do data entry, or maybe they need you to do research and provide them links to articles. So you just never know. Also, you can think about creating sample communication or a podcast, maybe creating a virtual blog. So those are all really great ways that you can use your summer, build a skill, and strengthen your resume. And then, of course, conducting informational interviews, not just with professionals, but also think about alumni. When you are in LinkedIn, you'll notice that there are really great and easy ways to reach out to alumni of the school that work at a variety of companies. Remember, a lot of our alumni happen to go on to 4-year universities and beyond to do incredible, amazing things. So you just never know where they may be working. They could be working at Disney, but then they also could be working at NASA, or they could be working at Google, or be across the world. So if you, again, need assistance with how to connect on LinkedIn, you want to make sure that you go back and look at our LinkedIn workshop. Right now, CDS is still meeting with students. I know right now the focus may be turning to finals next week, but we will still be here even throughout the summer. So you can definitely go to our webpage or our Canvas tab in the Student Resources shell. There's a lot of great information there. You can also go to our YouTube channel, which is just Lake-Sumter State College Career Development Services. We are having office hours where we will meet with you through Zoom. Also, we have sort of drop in if you have a question. So you don't even have to have an appointment. You can just click on our Zoom between 11 and 4, usually most days. And you can still schedule your appointment the regular ways. You can go through Starfish if you're a current student. You can email us, and certainly you can also call us. And then we do have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where Ann and I both, we try to look for virtual career fairs, job alerts, webinars, any of that information. We try to share through our social pages to make sure that if you are looking for a job at this point in time, or you need assistance with your career, or maybe you were going to do an internship, but now that's been put on hold, we definitely are here to assist you. So just make sure that you let us know, and there's a number of different ways you can reach us. And then lastly, before we go today, I just wanted to remind you that we have our virtual job search series, our workshop 1, which was job search strategies. And then of course, our workshop 2, which was last week, Build Your LinkedIn Toolbox. And both of those, as you can see, are on our YouTube channel. And then if you have a friend that missed this workshop, we will also be putting this on our YouTube channel by the end of the week. So again, make sure that you check us out, and hopefully you have a great day and a great summer, and good luck on finals.